Chapter 1. Foundations. Gregory Kane stood in his wood shop, running his calloused hand along the cherry wood bookshelf he'd spent 6 weeks building. At 52, he'd found peace in the smell of sawdust and the precision of measured cuts. The bookshelf was a wedding gift for his daughter Samantha, hand-carved with her initials intertwined with her fiancé's. "Dad, it's beautiful." Samantha's voice came from the doorway. She stepped into the shop, her eyes bright with emotion. At 26, she'd inherited his dark hair and steady demeanor. "Blake's going to love it." "Blake Watkins better love it," Gregory said with a slight smile. "I've known that boy since he was chasing you around the neighborhood with water balloons." Samantha laughed, then her expression shifted. "Mom called again. She wants to meet this week." Gregory's jaw tightened imperceptibly. "About the wedding?" "She says it's important. Something about seating arrangements." Samantha fidgeted with her engagement ring. "I know things are complicated, but she is my mother. I wouldn't dream of making this harder for you, Sam." Gregory set down his tools. "Your wedding day is about you and Blake. Whatever your mother needs, we'll handle it." What Samantha didn't know, what Gregory had carefully kept from her for the past 8 months, was that her mother, Gabriella Lowery, had been systematically attempting to manipulate their daughter into believing Gregory had hidden assets from their divorce settlement 15 years ago. The private investigator Gregory hired, Hugh Goodwin, had documented every conversation, every lie, every scheme. Gregory had learned patience during his 20-year marriage to Gabriella. He'd learned even more about strategy during their bitter divorce. She'd gotten the vacation home, half his retirement, and substantial alimony. He'd gotten primary custody of Samantha and his sanity back. Now, as his phone buzzed with another message from Hugh, Gregory felt the familiar weight of preparation. The message was simple: Clifton Brewer, third marriage. Previous wives both filed restraining orders. Sending full dossier. Clifton Brewer was Gabriella's new husband, a smooth-talking real estate developer she'd married 6 months ago. Gregory had met him once, slicked hair, expensive suit, and a handshake like a dead fish. Something about the man had triggered Gregory's instincts, honed from years of running his own contracting business. You didn't build a company from scratch without learning to spot snakes. "Dad," Samantha's voice pulled him back. "You okay?" "Just thinking about my toast," he lied smoothly. "Want to make sure I don't embarrass you." She hugged him. "You could never embarrass me." After Samantha left, Gregory opened Hugh's dossier. Clifton Brewer wasn't just a bad husband. He was a professional con artist. His real name was Clifton Brewster, and he had a pattern: marry wealthy women, convince them to make large investments in his development projects, then disappear when the money dried up. His previous 2 wives had been left financially ruined. But Gabriella didn't have independent wealth anymore. Her target was obvious: the house Gregory had built with his own hands, the business he'd grown, and the trust fund he'd established for Samantha. Gregory made a call. "Hugh, I need everything ready by the wedding. Every document, every witness, every piece of evidence." "You sure you want to do this at the wedding?" Hugh's gravelly voice carried concern. "That's your daughter's day." "I'm not starting anything," Gregory said coldly. "But if Gabriella makes a move, I'm finishing it." Chapter 2. The Players. The rehearsal dinner was held at Lucia's, an upscale Italian restaurant where Gregory had reserved the private room. 40 guests mingled: Blake's family, close friends, and the wedding party. Gregory watched his daughter laugh with her bridesmaids, her joy infectious. "Gregory Kane, you old dog." A heavy hand clapped his shoulder. Jerome Bolton, his business partner of 15 years, grinned. "Your little girl's all grown up." "Don't remind me," Gregory said, accepting a glass of scotch. "Feels like yesterday I was teaching her to ride a bike." "Speaking of bikes, you see the motorcycle Gabriella's husband pulled up on?" Jerome's voice dropped. $60,000 custom Harley. Where's a real estate developer get that kind of toy money in this economy? Gregory had seen it. He'd also seen the expensive watch, the designer clothes, and the way Clifton worked the room like a politician. The man was performing, and Gregory recognized the show. Gabriella made her entrance fashionably late, draped in a gold cocktail dress that screamed for attention. At 49, she'd maintained her looks through aggressive means: Botox, fillers, and a wardrobe that belonged to someone half her age. Clifton followed like a shadow, his smile bright and empty. "Gregory," Gabriella purred, approaching with Clifton in tow. So good to see you. You remember Clifton. Hard to forget, Gregory said neutrally, shaking the man's hand. Mr. Kane, I've been meaning to talk to you about some investment opportunities, Clifton launched immediately. I'm developing a commercial property downtown, and with your construction background. Not interested, Gregory cut him off politely. But I appreciate the thought. Clifton's smile faltered for just a moment, but Gabriella smoothly intervened. Always so cautious, Gregory. Some things never change. Her eyes held something calculating. But we should talk privately. About Samantha's future. Anything about Sam's future can be discussed openly, Gregory replied. Not this, Gabriella insisted. It concerns family assets and her inheritance. Gregory felt Jerome tense beside him. His business partner knew enough to recognize a setup. My lawyers handle estate planning, Gabriella. You want to discuss something? Go through them. Her expression hardened, still hiding behind lawyers. Typical. Before Gregory could respond, Samantha appeared, linking arms with both her parents. No fighting tonight, promise me. This is supposed to be fun. Gabriella's face transformed into maternal warmth. Of course, darling. Your father and I were just catching up. She kissed Samantha's cheek. I'm so happy for you. As Samantha pulled them toward the family table, Gregory caught Clifton watching him with undisguised calculation. The con man was assessing, planning. Gregory had seen that look before, in business negotiations, in poker games, in the eyes of men who thought they were smarter than everyone else. What Clifton didn't know was that Gregory had already won. The question was whether Gabriella would force him to reveal his hand at the wedding. During dinner, Gregory observed carefully. Gabriella worked the room, planting seeds. He heard her tell Blake's mother about family property disputes and mentioned to Samantha's godmother that some people prioritize money over their children. Each comment was designed to poison perception, to paint Gregory as the villain. Clifton, meanwhile, cornered Jerome. Your partnership with Gregory must be quite profitable. The construction business is booming. Jerome, loyal to his core, played dumb. We do okay. Honest work, honest pay. I'm sure it's more than okay, Clifton pressed. A man like Gregory, building that house of his, the college fund for Samantha, must be sitting on significant assets. You'd have to ask him, Jerome said, excusing himself. Later, in the parking lot, Jerome found Gregory. They're hunting, partner. Whatever you're planning, be ready. I am, Gregory assured him. Hugh's team has been monitoring Gabriella's communications. She and Clifton have been planning this for months. They think they'll pressure me publicly at the wedding, use emotion and embarrassment to force my hand. And you're going to let them try? I'm going to let them hang themselves, Gregory said quietly. Every word, every action, it's all being documented. When they make their move, I'll have everything I need. Jerome whistled low. You're a patient man, Greg. Patience isn't weakness, Gregory replied, thinking of the years he'd spent building his business, raising his daughter, weathering Gabriella's manipulation. It's strategy. Chapter 3, The Ceremony. The wedding day dawned clear and perfect. Gregory stood in his tuxedo, adjusting his tie in the mirror of the country club's groom's suite. In a few hours, he'd walk his daughter down the aisle and hand her over to a good man. It should have been the happiest day of his life. His phone buzzed. Hugh's message was simple. They're moving today. Gabriella's been on the phone all morning with Clifton. Something about the perfect audience. Stay sharp. Gregory pocketed his phone as Blake entered, looking nervous in his tuxedo. Mr. Kane, can we talk? Blake, you're about to be my son-in-law. Call me Greg. He poured them both a drink. What's on your mind? I overheard Mrs. Lowry and her husband talking this morning, Blake said hesitantly. They were saying something about legal documents and making you see reason in front of everyone. I don't know what it means, but I thought you should know. Gregory felt a surge of respect for the young man. I appreciate you telling me. Don't worry about it. Whatever happens today, you focus on Samantha. That's all that matters. The ceremony was beautiful. 200 guests filled the country club's garden as Gregory walked Samantha down the aisle. She was radiant, and for those perfect moments, everything else faded away. He placed her hand in Blake's, whispered, "Take care of her," and took his seat in the front row. Gabriella sat across the aisle in a dress that was far too attention-grabbing for a mother of the bride, scarlet red and cut low. Clifton sat beside her, checking his phone constantly. The reception began smoothly. Dinner was served, toasts were made. Gregory kept his speech short and heartfelt, talking about Samantha's kindness, her strength, and how proud he was of the woman she'd become. The room applauded warmly. Then Gabriella stood up, though no one had called on her. "I'd like to say something too," she announced, her voice carrying across the room. She'd already had several glasses of wine. Samantha looked uncomfortable, but nodded graciously. "My daughter deserves the best in life," Gabriella began, her words slightly slurred. "She deserves security, stability, and family support." Her eyes locked on Gregory. "Which is why I'm concerned about certain financial arrangements." The room grew quiet. Gregory remained still, his expression neutral. "Gregory has done well for himself," Gabriella continued, warming to her topic. "But he's been selfish with family resources. Samantha should have access to the family home to ensure her future and any grandchildren." "Mom." Samantha stood up, embarrassed. "This isn't the time." "It's exactly the time," Gabriella cut her off. "Your father needs to do the right thing." She turned fully to Gregory. "I've had papers drawn up. A simple transfer of the house deed to Clifton and me as trustees for Samantha's benefit. All you have to do is sign." The audacity stole the breath from the room. Clifton stood, producing documents from his jacket pocket. "It's perfectly legal, Mr. Kane. Simply ensures the property stays in the family." Gregory stood slowly. Every eye in the room was on him. "You want my house?" "For Samantha's future," Gabriella insisted, moving toward him with the papers. "Sign these, and we can all move on. Or we can discuss in court how you've hidden assets from me for 15 years. "I haven't hidden anything," Gregory said calmly. "Every penny was accounted for in our divorce." "Liar." Gabriella's composure cracked. "You built an empire while I got scraps." "You got exactly half of everything we built together," Gregory replied evenly. "And you spent it. That's not my problem." Gabriella's face flushed with rage. In one swift motion, she grabbed a bottle of red wine from the nearest table and poured it over Gregory's head. The cold liquid soaked his hair, ran down his face, stained his tuxedo. Gasps erupted across the room. Samantha screamed, "Mom." But Gabriella wasn't done. She slapped Gregory hard across the face, the crack echoing in the stunned silence. "You selfish bastard," she shrieked. "You owe me. You owe your daughter." Gregory stood there, wine dripping from his chin, his cheek reddening from the slap. He didn't flinch, didn't retaliate. He simply pulled out his phone, wine-stained but functional, and made a call. "It's time," he said simply into the phone, then looked at Gabriella with ice in his eyes. "You just made the biggest mistake of your life." He walked out of the reception hall, leaving a trail of red wine drops. Behind him, chaos erupted. Samantha was crying, guests were shouting, Blake was trying to restore order. Gregory stepped into the cool evening air, counting down in his head. 5 minutes. That's how long Hugh said it would take. At exactly 5 minutes, Gabriella's phone rang inside the reception hall. Gregory could hear it through the door, a shrill ringtone that cut through the commotion. Then he heard her answer. Her voice was sharp, annoyed. "What? Who is this?" The screaming started 10 seconds later. Chapter 4. The Unraveling. Gregory stood in the country club parking lot, using bottled water to rinse wine from his face, when Jerome appeared with a fresh shirt. "You okay, partner?" "Never better," Gregory said, changing into the clean clothes. Through the glass doors, he could see chaos inside. Gabriella was screaming into her phone while Clifton tried to calm her down. Samantha was being comforted by Blake, and guests milled about in confused clusters. "What did you do?" Jerome asked with a mixture of awe and concern. "I made a phone call," Gregory said simply. "The rest is just consequences catching up." Hugh Goodwin emerged from the shadows of the parking lot, a thin smile on his weathered face. The private investigator had been watching from a distance. Beautiful execution. The timing was perfect. "What exactly is happening in there?" Jerome pressed. Hugh held up his phone, showing a recording app. "That call Gabriella just received? It was from Detective Iris Holden of the Fraud Division. She's been investigating Clifton Brewer, or should I say, Clifton Brewster, for the past 3 months based on information I provided." Inside, Gabriella had stopped screaming. Her face had gone pale, and she was staring at Clifton with dawning horror. Clifton's smooth facade was cracking, his eyes darting toward the exits. 3 months ago, when Gabriella first started her campaign to get Greg's assets, I started digging into Clifton, Hugh explained. Found his 2 previous wives, Both left destitute after he convinced them to invest in fake real estate projects. Found his real criminal record, fraud, identity theft, and an outstanding warrant in Nevada. You've been setting a trap this whole time, Jerome said admiringly. Not a trap, Gregory corrected. Just making sure the truth came out. I knew Gabriella would push this at the wedding. Hugh's surveillance confirmed she planned to create a public scene, counting on emotion and embarrassment to force my hand. So I gave her enough rope to hang herself. Through the glass, they watched as Clifton tried to leave, but two uniformed officers entered the reception hall. Detective Iris Holden, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, showed her badge and began speaking to Clifton. The warrant is being executed now, Hugh confirmed. Clifton's going to jail for fraud and violation of his probation. And Gabriella. Gabriella is about to learn what happens when you marry a con artist, Gregory finished coldly. Inside, Gabriella was arguing with Detective Holden, her voice carrying through the doors. I didn't know. I had no idea he was. This is entrapment. This is Gregory's doing. Detective Holden's response was calm but firm. Mrs. Brewer, your husband has defrauded multiple women across 3 states. The fact that you're a victim too doesn't excuse your attempt to extort Mr. Kane tonight. We have video evidence of assault and attempted fraud. Assault? It was just wine. Gabriella protested. And battery, the detective added. Multiple witnesses saw you strike Mr. Kane. He has the right to press charges. Gregory straightened his collar and walked back into the reception hall. The room fell silent as he entered. His daughter immediately rushed to him. Dad, I'm so sorry, Samantha sobbed. I had no idea she would. This isn't your fault, Gregory said firmly, embracing her. None of this is your fault. This is your wedding day, and I'm not going to let anyone ruin it. He turned to the detective. I want to press full charges for both the assault and the attempted extortion. I have documentation that Mrs. Brewer and her husband planned this coordinated attack. Gabriella's face went from pale to red. You set me up. You manipulated everything. I documented your crimes, Gregory corrected. There's a difference. You chose to pour wine on me. You chose to slap me. You chose to try to steal my property with fraudulent papers. Clifton, now in handcuffs, spoke up desperately. Gabriella didn't know about my past. She's innocent in all this. Actually, Mr. Brewster, Hugh stepped forward, producing a tablet. Mrs. Brewer knew quite a bit. These are text messages between you two, discussing how to manipulate Gregory into signing over assets. You both believed he would cave under public pressure rather than make a scene at his daughter's wedding. He showed the messages to Detective Holden. Gabriella's face crumbled as she realized they had everything. You planted the whole wedding scheme. Gabriella breathed, staring at Gregory with hate and fear. You knew we were coming for you. I knew you'd come for something, Gregory replied. I just gave you the opportunity to show everyone who you really are. You did the rest yourself. Detective Holden motioned to her officers. Mrs. Brewer, you'll need to come with us for questioning. If you cooperate, things might go easier for you. This is insane. Gabriella looked around the room, seeking sympathy. He's been planning this for months. He used his own daughter's wedding too. To protect myself from your fraud? Gregory interrupted. Yes, I did. And I'd do it again. Samantha pulled away from Blake, looking at her mother with tears streaming down her face. How could you? On my wedding day? You tried to steal Dad's house. I was thinking of your future, Gabriella pleaded. You deserve security. I have security. Samantha cut her off, her voice breaking. I have a father who built a business from nothing, who raised me when you were too busy spending his money, who worked 2 jobs to put me through college. And you repay him by marrying a con artist and trying to humiliate him in front of everyone I love. Samantha, please. No, Samantha said firmly. You need to leave. Both of you. As the police escorted Clifton and Gabriella out, the stunned guests began to murmur. Some looked at Gregory with new respect, others with uncertainty. The bride's mother being arrested at the wedding wasn't exactly normal. Blake's father, Sean Mercer, approached Gregory. That took incredible restraint. If someone did that to me, I'd have lost control, Gregory finished. That's what they wanted. They wanted me emotional, defensive, willing to make bad decisions. I learned a long time ago that patience beats passion. Samantha hugged him again. I want to continue the reception. I'm not letting Mom ruin this day any more than she already has. Gregory smiled at his daughter's strength. Then let's celebrate your marriage. Chapter 5. Revelations. The reception continued. Though the energy was different, guests were buzzing with gossip, and the band played to a more subdued crowd. Gregory gave Samantha and Blake his blessing to cut the evening short if they wanted, but his daughter was determined to salvage what remained of her wedding day. In a quiet corner, Hugh briefed Gregory on the next steps. Detective Holden has enough to charge both of them. Clifton's going away for years. He violated probation, crossed state lines to commit fraud, and his previous victims are lined up to testify. Gabriella's more complicated. Because she's a victim and a perpetrator, Gregory observed. Exactly. She married Clifton not knowing his full background, but these texts show she was fully aware you were their target. She participated in the extortion attempt. Hugh scrolled through his tablet. The question is how hard you want to push this. Gregory watched Samantha dancing with Blake, trying to reclaim some joy from the disaster. What are my options? Full prosecution, assault, battery, attempted fraud. She could do jail time. Or, Hugh paused. You could use this as leverage. Gabriella's scared right now. She just lost her con artist husband. Her scheme failed publicly, and she's facing criminal charges. People in that position make deals. What kind of deal? Permanent dissolution of all financial claims against you. A legal agreement that she'll never contact Samantha again without Samantha's explicit permission. Public admission that she orchestrated tonight's stunt. In exchange, you don't press charges for the assault. Gregory considered this. The fraud charges stick either way. Yes, those are criminal charges the state is pursuing based on the false documents they prepared. Your personal assault complaint is separate. Hugh leaned in. But here's something else. When we arrested Clifton, we found something interesting on his phone. He showed Gregory a series of photos. They showed documents, fake deeds, forged signatures, and bank account numbers. Clifton was planning to disappear right after the wedding. He had fake IDs and plane tickets to Mexico for tomorrow. If this scheme had worked tonight, if you'd signed those papers under duress, he'd have filed them immediately and been gone before you could contest them. And Gabriella? Would have been left holding the bag, Hugh said grimly. He was playing her too. The house transfer papers weren't set up to benefit her. They would have made Clifton sole owner. She'd have helped him steal your property and gotten nothing but criminal liability. Gregory felt a cold satisfaction. She chose a partner even worse than herself. Karma, Hugh agreed. Detective Holden approached them, her expression professional. Mr. Kane, we're taking both suspects in for processing. I wanted to thank you for your cooperation in this investigation. Your documentation was exemplary. I had good help, Gregory acknowledged Hugh. Mrs. Brewer is asking to speak with you. The detective continued. You're under no obligation, but she claims she has information you'd want to hear. Gregory glanced at Samantha, who was laughing at something Blake's sister said. His daughter was resilient, finding light even after her mother's betrayal. 5 minutes, he agreed. Gabriella sat in the country club's manager's office, her mascara smeared, her designer dress wrinkled. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. When Gregory entered with Detective Holden present, she flinched. I didn't know, she began immediately. About Clifton's background, about the other wives. Yes, you did, Gregory said flatly. Maybe not all of it, but you knew he was after my money. You helped him plan this. Her face crumpled. I thought we were in love. He said we were building a future together. You thought you found someone to help you get revenge on me, Gregory corrected. Because you never forgave me for the divorce, for moving on, for building a good life without you. You had everything, Gabriella whispered. The business, the house, Samantha's love. I built that business from nothing while you spent every penny I made, Gregory said coldly. I earned that house with my own hands. And Samantha's love? That's not currency, Gabriella. That's what you lost when you chose bitterness over being a mother. She stared at him, tears streaming. What do you want from me? Detective Holden, could you give us a moment? Gregory asked. The detective hesitated, then nodded. I'll be right outside. Once they were alone, Gregory sat across from Gabriella. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign a legal agreement that you will never make another financial claim against me, my business, or my property. You will never contact Samantha unless she initiates contact. You will publicly admit that tonight's stunt was your idea and Clifton's. And in exchange, I don't press charges for assault and battery. You'll still face fraud charges for the fake documents, but that's between you and the state. Cooperate fully, and you might avoid jail time. Gabriella's hands shook. Why would you do that? Not for you, Gregory said harshly. For Samantha, because having her mother in prison would hurt her, and you've hurt her enough for one lifetime. I never meant to hurt her, Gabriella sobbed. But you did. Repeatedly. And you did it because you were so focused on hurting me that you forgot she's a real person with real feelings. Gregory stood. You have until tomorrow to decide. Take the deal or face full prosecution. Either way, you're out of my life. He walked to the door, then paused. One more thing. Hugh found something interesting while investigating Clifton. What? He's still married. To wife number 2. The divorce was never finalized. Gregory let that sink in. Your marriage to him is invalid. You're not Mrs. Brewer. You're just Gabriella Lowry, a woman who threw away her dignity for a con artist. He left her sobbing in the office. Outside, the reception was winding down. Samantha and Blake were preparing to leave for their honeymoon, and Gregory wanted to see them off properly. His daughter hugged him tight. Thank you for not letting Mom ruin everything, she whispered. She only has the power we give her, Gregory replied. And I'm done giving her anything. As the newlyweds drove away in a car decorated with just married signs, Jerome joined Gregory. Hell of a wedding. Hell of a day, Gregory agreed. But it's not over yet. Chapter 6. Consequences. The morning after the wedding, Gregory sat in his lawyer's office with Hugh and a man he'd never met before, Kenny Ware, one of Clifton's previous victims. Kenny was in his early 40s, sharp-eyed and bitter. Thank you for coming, Gregory said. When Hugh told me you'd finally caught Clifton, I had to be here, Kenny replied. That bastard cost me everything. My house, my savings, even my marriage. My wife thought I was the idiot for trusting him. Tell me exactly what happened, Gregory requested. For the next hour, Kenny detailed how Clifton had befriended him at a business conference, gained his trust, and convinced him to invest in a sure-thing real estate development. The contract looked legitimate, the property existed, but Clifton had no actual ownership or rights to develop it. By the time Kenny realized he'd been scammed, Clifton had vanished with $200,000. I filed a police report, but he'd used a fake name, fake business registration. Everything was smoke and mirrors, Kenny said. I heard rumors he'd done it to others, but I could never track anyone down to corroborate. Hugh found 3 other victims, Gregory said, and we're building a case that will put him away for a long time. What about your ex-wife? Kenny asked. Is she part of his con? She thought she was his partner, Gregory explained. Turns out she was just another mark. He was going to steal my property and leave her to face the consequences. Hugh spread out documents on the conference table. Here's where we stand. Clifton's in custody, held without bail due to flight risk. He's being charged with multiple counts of fraud, identity theft, and violation of probation. The prosecutor estimates 15 to 20 years if convicted on all counts. And Gabriella? Gregory asked. She signed your agreement this morning, Hugh reported. She's waiving all financial claims, agreeing to the contact restrictions with Samantha, and she's made a full statement admitting her role in last night's scheme. The prosecutor is offering her a plea deal, probation and restitution in exchange for testimony against Clifton. Gregory nodded slowly. So she walks. Not quite, Hugh corrected. She's broke, publicly humiliated, and legally bound never to come after you again. Plus, Clifton had maxed out her credit cards and taken out loans in her name. She's facing about $80,000 in debt from his spending. Good, Gregory said without sympathy. Kenny leaned forward. I want to testify against him. I want him to see the damage he's caused. You'll get your chance, Hugh assured him. The trial's scheduled for 3 months from now. Clifton's lawyer is already trying to negotiate a plea, but the prosecutor wants to make an example of him. Gregory's phone buzzed. A text from Samantha, on the plane to Hawaii. Thank you for everything, Dad. I love you. He smiled, feeling some of the tension leave his shoulders. Despite everything, his daughter was happy. That's what mattered most. What about civil suits? Kenny asked. Can we go after him for damages? You can try, Hugh said, but men like Clifton hide their assets. Everything's in shell companies, overseas accounts, or already spent. You might get a judgment, but collecting is another story. Gregory had been thinking about this. What if we had leverage? Something that would make him want to cooperate. Hugh raised an eyebrow. What did you have in mind? Clifton's a narcissist. He cares about his reputation, his freedom, his comfort. Gregory pulled out his own tablet. I've been doing some research. His mother, Eunice Brewer, lives in a retirement community in Arizona. She's the one thing he seems to actually care about. He's been sending her money for years. How does that help us? Kenny asked. Because, Gregory explained, if Eunice knew what her son really was, it would destroy him. And if we could convince him that cooperating, paying restitution to his victims, would keep his mother from finding out the full extent of his crimes. Hugh grinned. You're saying we blackmail him into making things right. I'm saying we give him a choice, Gregory corrected. Confess everything, work with prosecutors to identify hidden assets, and pay back what he stole, or we make sure every sordid detail gets sent to his mother, along with a visit from each of his victims. Kenny's eyes lit up. That might actually work. From what I remember, he talked about his mother constantly. She thinks he's a successful businessman. Let me make some calls, Hugh said. We'd need to coordinate with the prosecutor, but if Clifton's willing to cooperate fully and provide restitution, they might be amenable to a slightly reduced sentence. Over the next week, the plan took shape. Hugh visited Clifton in jail with Kenny and 2 of the other victims. They laid out the choice. Help them recover what he'd stolen and face 20 years, or fight them and face 25 years plus having his mother learn the truth about her son. Clifton folded within an hour. He provided account numbers, property locations, and the names of accomplices. It wasn't enough to make his victims whole, but it was more than they'd had before. Kenny recovered $120,000 of his $200,000 loss. The others recovered varying amounts. Gabriella, meanwhile, was unraveling. Gregory heard through Samantha that her mother had moved in with her sister, Rebecca Walsh, after being evicted from the apartment she'd shared with Clifton. The credit card companies were circling, and Gabriella had no income source. She asked if she could borrow money. Samantha told Gregory over the phone from Hawaii. I said no. Was that wrong? That was smart, Gregory replied. Your mother needs to face the consequences of her choices. Bailing her out would just enable more bad behavior. I feel guilty, though, Samantha admitted. She's my mom. And she tried to steal your father's house at your wedding. Gregory reminded her gently. You can love someone and still maintain boundaries. That's not cruelty. That's self-preservation. After hanging up, Gregory stood in his wood shop, running his hand along a new project, a rocking chair for the grandchildren Samantha and Blake might one day have. The wood was smooth under his palm, the grain perfect. His phone rang. It was Detective Holden. Mr. Kane, I wanted to update you. Clifton Brewster just pled guilty to all charges. With his cooperation on asset recovery, he's looking at 18 years minimum. He'll be an old man when he gets out. And Gabriella? Probation, community service, and she has to pay restitution for the attempted fraud. She's also required to attend therapy and maintain employment. The detective paused. She's claiming she's the real victim here. Gregory almost laughed. Of course she is. For what it's worth, Detective Holden continued, you handled this better than most people would. You could have lost control when she assaulted you, could have made things worse. Instead, you stayed calm and let the system work. I learned a long time ago that revenge is a dish best served cold, Gregory said. Or in this case, best served by letting people face the natural consequences of their actions. Chapter 7, New Beginnings. 3 months later, Gregory was in his office at Kane Construction when Jerome barged in with a newspaper. You've got to see this. The headline read, Local con artist sentenced to 18 years in elaborate fraud scheme. The article detailed Clifton's crimes, his multiple victims, and his dramatic arrest at a wedding. Gabriella was mentioned as an accomplice who received probation in exchange for testimony. Your name's not in it, Jerome noted. I asked the prosecutor to keep me anonymous, Gregory explained. This was never about publicity. It was about protection. Still, it's satisfying seeing it in print. Jerome settled into a chair. Speaking of satisfying, we got the bid on the Riverside development. That's $2.4 million in new contracts. Gregory smiled. His business was thriving, his reputation stronger than ever. The wedding incident had actually brought him new respect. Word had spread about how he'd handled Gabriella's attack with dignity and how his preparation had exposed a criminal. Other contractors were coming to him for advice on protecting their assets. His phone buzzed with a text from Samantha. Coming home next week. Can't wait to see you. Also, we have news. Gregory's heart swelled. Whatever the news was, he was ready for it. That evening, He met Hugh at a local bar. The private investigator had become a friend through this ordeal. Over beers, Hugh showed him the final reports. Clifton's mother disowned him, Hugh said. Once she learned the truth, she wrote him out of her will and refused to take his calls from prison. That might hurt him more than the sentence. He built his whole life on lies, Gregory observed. Sooner or later, lies collapse. What about Gabriella? Any word? She's working retail, living with her sister, and staying out of trouble as far as I know. Gregory took a drink. Samantha says she's been asking to reconcile, but Sam's maintaining boundaries. Smart kid, Hugh said. She learned from the best. A woman approached their table, Detective Iris Holden, now off duty and in casual clothes. Mind if I join you? Please, Gregory gestured to his seat. Over the next hour, they talked shop. Iris shared stories from other cases, Hugh discussed the private investigation business, and Gregory talked about construction projects. It was easy, comfortable conversation. As the evening wound down, Iris caught Gregory's eye. I wanted to thank you again for your cooperation on the Brewster case. It's rare to see someone handle a personal attack so strategically. I had good teachers, Gregory said, thinking of the hard lessons from his marriage to Gabriella. I learned that emotion makes you weak, but patience makes you dangerous. Dangerous in a good way, Iris clarified with a smile. The only way, Gregory agreed. They exchanged numbers, and as Gregory drove home, he realized he was looking forward to seeing Iris again. Not romantically necessarily, just as someone interesting to know. His house was dark and quiet when he arrived. The house Gabriella had tried to steal, that represented years of his labor and dreams. He walked through the rooms, remembering the years he'd spent building it, the moments with Samantha growing up here, the life he'd created despite everything. In his study, he pulled out the framed photo of Samantha from her graduation day. She was smiling, proud, with her degree in architecture, following in her father's footsteps in her own way. Next to it was a new photo from the wedding, taken before Gabriella's outburst. Samantha and Gregory, father and daughter, both happy. That's what Gabriella had tried to take from him. Not just property, but peace. And she'd failed. His phone rang. It was Kenny Ware. Gregory, I wanted to thank you again. That $120,000 I recovered, it's letting me start over. I'm buying a small condo, rebuilding my credit. Without your help tracking down Clifton. You did the hard work, Gregory interrupted. You testified. You stood up for yourself. I just helped connect the dots. Well, it mattered. And if you ever need anything, I'll call, Gregory promised. After hanging up, he realized how many connections had come from this ordeal. Kenny, Detective Holden, even the prosecutor had mentioned staying in touch. Sometimes the worst situations created the best relationships. Chapter 8, Reckonings. 6 months after the wedding, Gregory received an unexpected visitor at his office. Gabriella's sister, Rebecca Walsh, stood in the reception area looking uncomfortable. Mr. Kane, I know I'm probably the last person you want to see. Come in, Gregory said, surprising himself. He led her to his office and closed the door. What can I do for you, Rebecca? It's about Gabriella, Rebecca began nervously. She's not doing well. The probation, the debt, the shame, it's crushing her. She's talking about suicide. Gregory's expression hardened. Is this a manipulation? Because if she's genuinely at risk, she needs professional help, not me. I've tried to get her into therapy, but she refuses. She keeps saying her life is over, that she's lost everything. Rebecca twisted her hands. I'm not asking you to forgive her or help her financially. I thought you should know. In case something happens. Rebecca, I appreciate you coming here, but Gabriella's choices are her own. I can't save her from consequences she created. Gregory softened slightly. If you're genuinely worried about her safety, call a crisis line. Get her committed for evaluation if necessary. But don't make her problems mine. I understand, Rebecca said quietly. I wanted you to know she's suffering. After she left, Gregory sat in silence for a long moment. He felt no satisfaction in Gabriella's pain, but he also felt no obligation to alleviate it. She'd made her choices. He'd made his. They were both living with the results. He called Hugh. Gabriella's sister just visited. Says Gabriella's talking about suicide. You think it's real or manipulation? With Gabriella, it's always hard to tell, Gregory admitted. But I'm not taking chances. Can you have someone check on her? Discreetly. Already on it, Hugh said. I've had periodic checks since the trial. She's depressed and broke, but I haven't seen any genuine signs of self-harm. Lots of dramatic social media posts, but that's par for the course with her. Keep watching anyway, Gregory requested. Not for her sake, for Samantha's. If something happens, I don't want my daughter feeling guilty. 2 weeks later, Gregory got his answer. Gabriella posted on social media about her rebirth and finding herself. She'd gotten a job as a receptionist at a spa, was attending court-mandated therapy, and was learning to forgive herself. The post was classic Gabriella, performative and seeking sympathy. Samantha called him after seeing the post. Do you think she means it? About changing? I think your mother is good at performing, Gregory said carefully. Whether she's actually changed, time will tell. But that's not your problem to solve. I feel bad for her sometimes, Samantha admitted. Then I remember what she did to you, to me, and I get angry all over again. That's normal, Gregory assured her. You're allowed to have complicated feelings about your mother. Love and anger aren't mutually exclusive. When did you get so wise? Samantha teased. When I stopped letting my emotions make my decisions, Gregory replied. Now, when are you and Blake coming for dinner? I want to hear this news you've been hinting about. Samantha laughed. Sunday. And Dad, prepare to be a grandfather. Gregory felt his heart swell with joy. Samantha, I'm 3 months along, she said excitedly. We wanted to wait until we were sure, but yes, you're going to be a grandpa. After the call, Gregory sat in his office with a stupid grin on his face. A grandchild, a new generation. Despite everything Gabriella had tried to destroy, life was moving forward. That Sunday, Samantha and Blake came for dinner. The house was filled with laughter, plans for the nursery, and debates about baby names. Gregory watched his daughter glow with happiness and felt profound gratitude. Have you told your mother? He asked gently. Samantha's expression dimmed. Not yet. I don't know if I should. She's still your mother, Gregory said. I won't tell you what to do, but this is your child. You decide who gets to be part of their life. What would you do? Samantha asked. Gregory thought carefully. I'd set clear boundaries. If you want her to know about the baby, tell her. But make it clear that her relationship with your child depends on her behavior. No drama, no manipulation, no using the baby as leverage. That's fair, Blake agreed, squeezing Samantha's hand. Later, as they were leaving, Samantha hugged Gregory tight. Thank you for being the parent I could count on. This baby is going to know their grandfather and learn from you what real strength looks like. After they left, Gregory returned to his wood shop and began sketching designs for a crib. Handcrafted, solid oak, something that would last generations. As he worked, he thought about legacy, not the money or property kind, but the kind measured in values and character. Gabriella had tried to take his material wealth. She'd failed, but even if she'd succeeded, she couldn't have touched what really mattered. His relationship with his daughter, his integrity, his peace of mind. That was the real victory. Chapter 9, Resolution. 1 year after the wedding, Gregory stood at a different celebration, his grandson's first birthday party. Little Hugh Watkins, named after both Blake's father and the private investigator who'd helped Gregory, toddled around the backyard while adults laughed and children played. Samantha looked radiant, motherhood suiting her perfectly. Blake was every bit the devoted father, and Gregory felt a contentment he hadn't experienced in years. Hell of a year, Jerome commented, joining him by the grill. Hell of a year, Gregory agreed. Trial's over, Clifton's in prison, business is booming, and I'm a grandfather. And Gabriella? Gregory glanced toward the fence where a lone figure stood. Gabriella, kept at a distance by her own choices. Samantha had allowed her mother to attend the party, but with strict conditions, no drama, no demands, and she stayed in the designated area. She's a ghost, Gregory observed. Present but powerless. Gabriella looked diminished. Her designer clothes were gone, replaced by discount store outfits. Her hair was simpler, her makeup understated. She watched her daughter and grandson with an expression of pure loss. Detective Iris Holden, now Gregory's steady companion, appeared at his elbow. You okay? Better than okay, Gregory said, putting an arm around her waist. I've got everything that matters. As the party wound down, Gabriella approached tentatively. Gregory, could we talk? Make it quick, he said, not unkindly. I wanted to apologize, she began, the words clearly difficult. For everything. The wedding, the manipulation, all of it. I was wrong. Gregory studied her. She looked sincere, but he'd seen her perform before. I appreciate that. But apologies don't erase actions. I know, Gabriella said quietly. I don't expect forgiveness. I wanted you to know that I see it now. What I threw away. The good man you were are. How I poisoned our daughter against you for years. Samantha made her own choices, Gregory replied. She saw through you eventually. Because you never spoke ill of me, Gabriella continued. Even when you had every right. Samantha told me how you always defended me to her, even after the divorce. I didn't deserve that. Gregory softened slightly. No, you didn't. But it wasn't for you. It was for her. She needed to come to her own conclusions. Well, she has, Gabriella said with a bitter laugh. And I've lost her trust, maybe forever. But I'm trying to do better. The therapy, the job, taking responsibility. That's good, Gregory said simply. Not for me, for you. You need to live with yourself. I see you're happy, Gabriella observed, glancing at Iris. I'm glad. You deserve happiness. As she walked away, Iris squeezed Gregory's hand. That must have been hard. Easier than I expected, Gregory admitted. I don't hate her anymore. She's just someone I used to know who made terrible choices. The sun was setting, casting golden light across the yard. Little Hugh ran to Gregory, arms up, and he lifted his grandson with a laugh. The boy's future was bright, unburdened by the mistakes of previous generations. That night, after everyone had gone home, Gregory sat on his porch with Iris. They talked about the future, about possibly moving in together, about travel plans, about the business expansion he was considering. Do you ever regret it? Iris asked. How you handled things with Gabriella. Some people would say you were harsh. Some people weren't married to her for 20 years, Gregory replied. I gave her exactly what she deserved, consequences. Nothing more, nothing less. No revenge fantasies? No wanting to hurt her back. Gregory shook his head. The best revenge is living well. Building something good, being there for my daughter, finding happiness with you. Gabriella lost everything because of her own choices. I didn't need to do anything but protect myself and let justice take its course. That's remarkably healthy, Iris observed. I had good motivation, Gregory said, pulling her close. I wanted to be the kind of man my daughter could be proud of, and the kind of grandfather my grandson could look up to. Revenge, hatred, bitterness, those things would have poisoned that. They sat in comfortable silence, watching stars emerge in the darkening sky. Gregory thought about the journey, from the humiliation at the wedding to this moment of peace. He'd been tested and emerged stronger. His phone buzzed with a text from Samantha. Thank you for today, Dad. For everything, always. Love you. Gregory smiled and typed back. Love you too, kiddo. See you next Sunday. As he set down the phone, Iris asked, Any regrets at all? Gregory thought about it, really thought about it. Only one, he finally said. I regret not seeing through Gabriella sooner. But then again, if I had, I wouldn't have Samantha. So maybe not even that. You're a good man, Gregory Kane, Iris said softly. I'm a smart man, he corrected with a slight smile. I learned from my mistakes. I protected what mattered. And I didn't let someone else's toxicity poison my life. And now I build, Gregory said simply. A life with you, a legacy for my grandson, a business that means something. The past is settled. I won. Not because I destroyed Gabriella, she destroyed herself, but because I refused to let her destroy me. In the distance, the lights of the city twinkled. Somewhere out there, Gabriella was living with her choices. Clifton was in prison. Kenny and the other victims were rebuilding. And Gregory was here, on his porch, in the house he'd built with his own hands, with a woman who respected him and a family who loved him. That was victory. Not dramatic or flashy, but real and lasting. As Iris rested her head on his shoulder, Gregory felt something he hadn't felt in years, complete peace. The war was over. He'd won, not through violence or elaborate schemes, but through patience, preparation, and the simple act of standing his ground. What are you thinking? Iris asked. I'm thinking, Gregory said slowly, that the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's building something so good, so solid, that their attempts to tear you down become meaningless. Gabriella tried to take my house, my reputation, my dignity. But she couldn't touch what really mattered, my character, my relationships, my peace of mind. That's beautiful, Iris said. That's truth, Gregory corrected. Everything else is just noise. They sat together as night fell completely. Two people who'd found each other through unlikely circumstances, building something new on the solid foundation of lessons learned and battles won. Inside the house, the crib Gregory had handcrafted sat waiting for little Hugh's next visit. On the mantel, photos documented the journey: Samantha's graduation, her wedding, pre-disaster, the baby's birth. A family story, imperfect but real. And in his study, locked in a drawer, were all the documents from the case against Clifton and Gabriella, insurance, in case she ever forgot the consequences of crossing him again. But Gregory didn't think about them anymore. They were history, footnotes in a life that was moving forward with purpose and joy. The phone call he'd made at the wedding, those 5 simple minutes that had changed everything, had been the culmination of months of preparation and years of learning when to act and when to wait. Gabriella had screamed when she realized who was calling. She'd screamed because she'd finally understood that she'd underestimated the quiet man who'd built his empire one careful decision at a time. Gregory Kane hadn't needed to raise his voice or his fists. He'd simply needed to be patient, be prepared, and be ready when his enemies made their move. And when they did, he'd won. Completely. Decisively. Permanently. That was the long game. And Gregory Kane had always been a patient player. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.